Recording in three, two, and one.
Why does this list smell like Paul Mitchell hairspray and clove cigarettes?
Welcome to episode 214 of Nerdery and Murdering.
Big 214. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows of the up, the down, the good and the bad, the nerd and the murd. All right. So I know some people get bored of this, but I have to talk about it anyway. My golf. Um,
Oh my God, the show's about golf now.
Let me explain golf real quick, just for those who are unaware. You have a club, you hit a ball, blah 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 blah. You have a certain amount of hits or strokes to accomplish on any given hole. Par means you match it. So if it's a par four, par five, that means you've gotten the hole in 4 or 5 strokes. A birdie, you didn't one less, an eagle, two less. You can have an albatross for a particularly hard hole. Anyway, I wanted to explain that. Um, I'm not that good at golf. I'm really not. I have a 20 point something handicap. My average is 92 or 91. It's not great. Um, Sometimes I'm not even average. And sometimes when I hit these weird shots off. I mean, way right. When I say right, I mean like to my direct right instead of forward and ahead. My friend Chuck, that we've talked about on the show, and my friend Billy, they're way better golfers than I am. But it's all just to have fun. It's all just to have fun. And I do have fun. The whole thing behind golf is you get that euphoria, that dopamine rush of that great shot. That great shot keeps you going to the next one. And that's where it gets very addicting and very fun. So last weekend, we played in a scramble, which means you play with a partner and you play best ball. Or you play with multiple people. Everybody hits, you choose who has the best ball, and then everybody hits from there. It's called a scramble. So Chelsea and I played with a guy we know and his daughter, Kiki, Scotty. I think Scotty may listen, but anyway, his daughter Kiki, 19-year-old girl, dude. There was no point to a Steven drive. She was just smacking these balls down the field,
Been playing
down the
her whole
fairway.
life.
Oh my God, yeah, she's been playing her whole life. Her dad wants her to play golf in college, and she just doesn't have any interest. And I'm like, you can get scholarships for that and everything. She was just so good. It was a fun scramble. We came in first, however, because of something they did with the tournament, we ended up dropping down to fourth. They kind of weird thing. They took a real life PGA golfer in a real life tournament that was happening last Sunday, and your final score got added to their final score got added to yours. And because the third place team had a golfer that just killed it that weekend, they went up to first, and we dropped down to fourth. It was really weird, really kind of stupid. But anyway, that was the scramble. But I have to talk about yesterday because again, this is where I started off that I'm not a good golfer. I don't even know that I would consider myself average. Par fives are long holes. That's the reason they're par fives. It takes most people five or more to get in the cut, to get in the hole, to get in the cup on a par five. I regularly hit bogey on it, which is one over, or double bogey. Occasionally, I'll even hit triple bogey on a five, which means it takes me 8 shots to get in that hole. Yesterday, first par five. I was 20 yards out from the pin, and I did what's called a bump and run, which is a little take an iron out and you hit straight across the ground, and I cupped it for a birdie, 1 under on a par five. Then on my second one, I was 101 yards from the pin, and I pitched it up in the air, and I lost it in the sun, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm over there somewhere, and I get to the hole, and I'm like, where's my ball? Where's my ball? Where did my ball go? It was in the cup. I drained it on a pitch. And it's just a dopamine rush. I can't explain what a dopamine rush that is to do something like this. Michael Shanks over Two Geeks and Microphone, he'll understand this because he's gotten into disc golf and it gets addictive. So sorry I had to go through all that, but I had to talk about that because it was just an amazing day yesterday. So
Well, good. I'm glad you had a good time.
I did. I did. Got a few more things. Announced this week. They are making a live adaptation, a TV series, I think, not a movie. I think it's a TV series on Netflix for the 80s video game Dragon's Lair.
Oh, is it going to be like
I'm
animated?
No, live action.
Oh,
Live action Dragon's Lair. I'm excited about this. It's going to be on Netflix. I don't have a release date. It was just announced this week. I'll be paying attention for more on that soon. Um, the next Star Wars we do will be Andor, correct?
we've done Andor.
Did we do Andor? Are you sure
Yeah,
we did Kenobi? Did we? I can't
yeah,
remember
we did
doing
Andor.
Andor. Okay. So I just finished season 2.
Hmm.
It was very disjointed. I did not find season 2 as good as season 1.
Hey,
It was
man, like I said in the episode, starting a rebellion ain't like dusting crops, boy.
No, it's not. It was very disjointed. It was sometimes hard to follow. Starting at about episode 6, it really picked up. Because I was struggling to get through Andor. I like the character and I like the final progression of where it went. I mean, once you get to episode 6, is really where I start thinking in my head, oh, these poor people are just all going to die. They're just all going to die. Um, it ended up being good. It was just a struggle to get through. So any of you who have not watched Andor season 2 yet, I would at least urge you to get through episode 6, maybe even 7 before deciding you're going to dump out because it is hard to stay with before that. But overall, not bad. Overall, not bad. The last thing I had, book update on my book.
Hey, here we go.
It is with a publisher.
It's with a
I
publisher?
It is with a publisher. I have a publisher who is reviewing it and editing it. I sent them the final copy Friday,
Hmm.
this for us 2 days ago. And they are looking over everything because I'm having problems with the editing part of it, so I needed some help. So I did get I have it and I have it with a publisher. And by the time this episode is out, I believe will be published.
Hey,
So I'm very excited about that. I may have to break in with a news update the day it publishes, since we're so far and out in advance, and it may already be published way by the time this episode comes out. But I'm very excited. We are well on the way, finally going to get it done. And now I can breathe a sigh of relief. Once I have this out, I can focus on book 2 because there will be a book 2 in this one. So thank you for those of you who have asked me about it, and have been reading through it. Uh, my partner here, Zig, has read all the way through it, and I do appreciate that. He read through it as I was writing it. So fingers crossed, by the time this episode comes out, I think the book is going to be published. So
hey, hey,
yeah,
Oompa.
uh, that
Published
that
author.
I hope so. That kind of brings me to a question. We've done it a little bit. Why don't we cover more books? We should.
Yes.
I think we should. I mean, we could talk the books. We could do Heinlein. We could do Orson Scott Card.
Hmm.
We've done Stephen King. Um, I think there's so many genres out there, and we've kind of touched on them in some episodes. But here's me requesting. I think we should do a book episode.
Okay.
Some books. Some books. Basically, we've done all these episodes, TV shows you should watch, movies you should watch, comic
Books,
books you
we've
should
done a few
read.
books. Well, I think it was mostly authors. There are a few that we talked about.
Yes. Yeah, I think we ought to cover books. So anyway, so there we go. So that's all I have. Do you got anything for us, or are you ready to step over to the nerdery side of the house?
I'm kind of ready to step over to the nerdery side of the house.
Go for it.
Today we're going to talk about goth and goth adjacent music.
All right. So I'm going to stop you right here,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna ask our listeners. I want you to stop. I want you to think thoughtfully as we've gone through all these musical genres. You've heard Zig's opinion, you've heard my opinion, but I'm going to throw it out there. Do you think I like this genre? And we're back. Go.
Gothic rock, also called goth rock or simply goth, is a style of rock music that emerged from post-punk in the United Kingdom in the late 1970s. The first post-punk bands were shifted towards dark music with gothic overtones, including Susie and the Banshees, Joy Division, Bauhaus, and The Cure. The genre itself was defined by a separate movement from post-punk. Gothic rock stood out due to its darker sound and the use of primary minor or bass chords, reverb, dark arrangements, and dramatic melancholic melodies, having inspired in Gothic literature, allied with themes such as sadness, nihilism, dark romanticism, tragedy, sensibilities of the genre, led the lyrics to represent the evil of the century and the romantic idealization of death and the supernatural imagination. Gothic rock then gave rise to a broader goth subculture that included clubs, fashion, and publications in the 1980s, 90s, and the early 21st century. According to the music journalist Simon Reynolds, standard music fixtures of Gothic rock include scything guitar patterns, high-pitched bass lines that often usurp the melodic role, and beats that were either hypnotically dirge-like or tom-tom heavy and tribal. Reynolds described the vocal styles of consisting of deep, droning alloys of Jim Morrison and Leonard Cohen. Several acts use drum machines downplaying the rhythm's backbeat. So I want to stop everybody right now. Go listen to the playlist for episode 214, please. Okay, and they're back. The first song we're going to talk
Okay,
about.
hold before you get to the first song. So here, let me start off with saying that South Park did this very well. There's a South Park episode with that centers around the goth kids in South Park. In the same episode, there are children who are getting into the vampire movement. Apparently, according to how that episode goes, those two cultures are vastly different and are actually offended by one another.
I don't know if
So,
that's necessarily correct.
no, I said this is what South Park said
Yeah.
is how they are. They are very anti each other. That Goth does not consider themselves vampiric. The vampiric culture does not consider themselves goth, or the vampire culture considers themselves goth, and the goth people don't like that. Um, I will go into this before you start off in saying this list was not what I expected it was going to be. I had an idea in my head what goth was going to be, and I was very ready to hate this music. I was extremely ready to hate this music. So, continue.
You sure?
Yeah, why?
All right. The first song is "Stranger" by Clan of Zymoz. Clan of Zymoz, also known simply as Zymoz, are a Dutch rock band formed in 1981, best known for its pioneers of dark wave. Clan of Zymoz featured a trio of singer-songwriters, Ronnie Moorings, Anka Wolbert, and Peter Newton, and gained success in the 1980s, releasing their first two albums on 4AD. We actually talked about these guys when we talked about the 4AD record label, before releasing their third and fourth album on Wings Records and scoring a hit single in the United States. The band is still active, continuing to tour and release recordings with Moorings as the sole remaining original member. Clan of Zymoz is a debut studio album by Dutch darkwave band Clan of Zymoz, released on July 1st, 1985 by 4AD. The album was produced by 4AD co-founder Ivo Watts Russell and recorded at Palladium Studios in Edinburgh. The remix includes on the album "A Day" and "A Stranger" were mixed and produced by John Fryer and Blackwing Studios in London. Fryer has gained notability for working with seminal bands on the 4AD, Butte, Rough Trade, and Beggars Banquet record labels, including Depeche Mode, Fad Gadget, and the Cocteau Twins. So, goth music has basically two different towers that it's supported by, like a bridge. You know, you got two different towers like a suspension bridge. You've got the heavy kind of guitar rock that kind of came from Alice Cooper. And you've got the synthy kind of orchestrated um, version of that as well. Um, the best goth music is the one that is the bits where they meet in the middle, but they're kind of on the synthy side. So, what did you think about Stranger by Clan of Zymos?
I'm going to read my notes exactly on this. Again, I had an expectation to hate this music. I really did. This song, new wave 80s meets club music,
Yeah,
is what
a
this
lot
was.
of club music from the 80s put a lot of these bands in there,
Yeah.
or at least would mix bits of, because a lot of them are mostly, um, I don't want to say background noise, but atmosphere music. Clan of Zymos is an atmosphere band. You could put this bad boy on and just chill out. There's some there's some rock and then there's some singing, but like this song's what, like 4.5 minutes?
So
two
that's
and a
where I
half
have in
minutes
my
of it
notes.
is just music.
Yep. I have that next to my notes. 2 minutes in and no singing took me by surprise. I was expecting singing. Then we got to 251. That's where the singing starts.
Or was it
And
3 minutes? Right at 3 minutes? Okay.
almost at 3 minutes, 251. At that point, wow, this is a really freaking cool song. If this is a representation of their music, I will have to listen to more of Clan of Zymon.
Clan of
I
Zymos, yeah, they're
like
badass.
this. So this was the very first song I listened to in this list, and I'm like, why is this God? It's not what I expected. I was very pleasantly surprised by this song.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Clan
so,
of Zymos is again they're on that atmosphere tower.
well, and so at this point, listening to this song, I was like, okay, I have some hope now. I have some hope I'm not going to be able to go through this list and go, ah, this was a good song. I like this. Immediately is added to my playlist.
Oh, so you actually put some Clan of Zymos in your playlist?
Sure did.
Nice. They're pretty cool, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um. Yeah. Again, I like them. They've been going for years and years. They haven't released a whole lot of albums. But they do release. What they'll do is they'll make a 12-inch single for playing in clubs like this one, and they'll go tour on that for a while. The next song is actually a modern take because again, this music started in the early '80s, ran up through the '90s. This one was released in 2024. It is "Whispers in the Echo Chamber" by Chelsea Wolfe. Chelsea Wolfe, she's a youngin. She was born November 14th of 1983. So she's a young kid. An American singer-songwriter, musician, her work blends elements of gothic rock, doom metal, and folk. She grew up in Northern California with a country musician father. Wolf began writing and recording songs during her childhood. She began to earn recognition for her albums, The Grime, The Glow, Apocalypsis, which blended gothic and folk elements, and her next few albums, Pain is Beauty, Abyss, and His Spun. Wolf has incorporated elements of neo-folk, electronic music, and heavy metal.
Did you
Her
say she was born in 1983?
1983.
Dude, she's 32, 33. She's not young. She's
Well,
young for
no,
us.
yeah.
Young to us.
40, yeah, she's 42.
Is it 42? 83. Yes, I do math.
She's 42. Yeah, well, she's younger than some of the other people. Like the Clan of Zymos people started in the '80s when she was born. Um, her evolution continued with birth violence, and she reaches out to she. Reaches out to she. She reaches out to she. She reaches out to she reaches out to she is the seventh studio album by American singer-songwriter Chelsea Wolfe. It was released.
Say that 5 times fast.
She reaches out to she reaches out to she. She reaches out to she. No, I can't.
That reminds me of the comedian that said if they ever started a restaurant, they would name the restaurant "Thank you for calling. How may I help you?" So when people answer the phone, they would go, "Thank you for
You're
calling. Thank you
calling
for
how?
calling. How may I help you? How may I help you?"
The album was recorded with producer and TV on the radio guitarist Dave Sitek, as well as regular Wolf collaborators Ben Chisholm, Brian Tualo, and Jesse Gowrie. It consists primarily of electronica with significant influences of trip hop, gothic rock, and industrial music, and was mainly inspired by Wolf achieving sobriety in January 2021. It was received positively by critics who described the album as ambitious, adventurous, and sonically disparate. Whispers in the Echo Chamber is one of those ones that I listen to and I think, man, I can't believe this movie. I can't believe this song was made last year. It really feels like it was made 20 years ago, like the 90s goth, because the 90s goth had a little different sound. It was more like this. It was more guitar driven. Again, she's closer to the 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 doom metal side, or the doom metal side. I guess that one's over here. What do you think about this one?
This one screamed more than what I expected for more what I expected for Goth.
Yeah.
This is not a bad song at all, but it disturbs me because it has that strange how do I put this? Music that sometimes sounds like it's playing backwards. That's the
Yeah,
best way
like
I
a
can describe
droning
it.
sound. Either like a droning sound in the background.
Perfect example of this. Listen to the opening theme song for American Horror Story. It sounds
Yeah.
like the music is playing in reverse.
Uh-huh.
So it kind of reminded me of that. It's very unsettling, and maybe because it reminds me of the American Horror Story theme, why it disturbed me so much. Because, like I said, this is not a bad song at all. I just couldn't listen to this one over and over because that kind of reverse music just gives me the willies.
It gives you the heebies and the jeebies.
Yeah, because it
Yeah,
reminds me of that.
I think that's what she was going for. I think she was trying to again, like Clan of Zymos, she wants to set a mood. She
Yeah,
wants to set a mood.
I really need Will here because I need to know what that sound is, where it sounds like music is being played backward. Uh, it, it, hard to explain. That's the best way I can explain it. But
Text him.
yeah, I might. This is more what I expected for golf for Goth. If you had said, "Here, listen to Clan of Zymox and Chelsea Wolf, tell me which one is Goth," I would have went, "Oh God, yeah, Chelsea Wolf. That's got to be Goth."
Hmm.
Um, good song, good song. But like I said, this gives me the heebie-jeebies.
The heebies and the jeebies.
Yep.
All right, the next one is an older one. It is basically one of the songs that people point to as being kind of the birth of goth, because goth started about 1980ish. It is "Love Like Blood" by Killing Joke. Killing Joke are an English rock band formed in Notting Hill, London in 1979 by Jazz Coleman, Paul Ferguson, Geordie Walker, and Youth. Youth is the bass player. That's just the dude's name, Youth. Um, their first album, Killing Joke, was released in 1980 after the release of Revelations in 1982. Bassist Youth was replaced by Paul Raven. The band achieved mainstream success in 1985 with the album Nighttime, and particularly the single Love Like Blood, which reached the top 10 in Belgium and Netherlands and New Zealand. The band's musical style emerged from the post-punk scene, but stood out due to the heavier approach and has been cited as a key influence on industrial rock. Their style evolved over many years as time incorporating elements of gothic rock, synth pop, and electronic music, but always featured Walker's prominent guitar and Coleman's savagely strident vocals. Killing Joke have influenced many later bands and artists such as Metallica, Nirvana, Nine Inch Nails, and Soundgarden. Love Like Blood is a song by the English rock band Killing Joke. It was released on January 25th, 1985, and is the second single from the fifth studio album, Nighttime, produced by Chris Kimsey. The song is characterized as gothic rock and new wave. It was a top 10 hit in the Netherlands. Yep. Love Like Blood was originally released by EG Records as a 7 and a 12-inch single in the UK in January of 85. The song remains very fondly remembered in the Netherlands, and it has appeared on the country's annual top 2,000 songs of all time countdown every year since 2011. Its highest position was number 554 in 2000. What do you think about Love Like Blood by The Killing Joke?
This is another one that if I was not told this was goth, I would have thought this is just new wave 80s. This song fits.
There's a lot of crossover with post-punk and or new wave 80s, what we call it. Over in England, they call it post-punk. But yeah, there's a lot of blending.
This song would fit right into First Wave on Sirius XM. If you've
It
got Sirius
probably
XM,
is.
First
It
Wave
pr-
is a great station.
yes.
Whenever I'm listening to Sirius XM, First Wave is 85% of the music I listen to. It'd fit right in. I like this song a lot.
You like Love
A
Like Blood? Cool.
lot.
In the list, this is of this list. This is probably my least favorite song, and it's a banger. I love every song in both of these lists. Um, but yeah, I think this may be my least favorite in both of these lists. But that doesn't that doesn't mean it's not a banger. You know what I mean? It. I'm surprised you haven't heard it on First Wave. You know what I mean?
And I may have and just not known it.
Yeah,
I like I said, I like this song a whole lot. A whole lot. Absolutely.
pretty groovy. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
All right. So before in the next song, before in the punk and punkabilly 2 episodes, I said there was some crossover with goth. There's a particular band that I was thinking of at the time. This is it. This is the song I was thinking of. It is "Postcards from Paradise" by Flesh for Lulu. Flesh for Lulu was an English rock band formed in Brixton, London, active between 82 and 92. They were formed in 2013 to 2015 with a new lineup. Initially part of the post-punk scene, the band's sound shifted to reflect influences from pop music, country and western, rhythm and blues, and blues. Flesh for Lulu joined Static Records, which released Big Fun City in 1985. The following year, they signed Beggar's Banquet Records, and their song "I Go Crazy" was featured in Some Kind of Wonderful and received some airplay on American college rock radio stations that allowed Flesh for Lulu to undertake a tour of the U.S. The song "Postcards of Paradise" was covered by Paul Westerberg as a secret bonus track on his 2002 album Stereo. The Goo Goo Dolls also covered the same song, which is part of a deluxe edition release of their 2010 album Something for the Rest of Us, available on the band's website. Postcards from Paradise is kind of where that goth sound, and again, they're more on the guitar side, but there's some punkabilly aspects to it. And it's basically the story of a goth getting a message from his old lady who's off in the Caribbean. I love this one. I love the harmonica in it. Again, it's got some roots rock sound to it, but it's kind of that. There's a pop element to goth as well. This kind of leans into that. What did you think about "Postcards from Paradise" by Flesh for Lulu?
So we've talked about on this show, and we've had on our show, Stephen Boster from Two Geeks and a Microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Do listen to them if you haven't. I'll come to him in a minute. This song was kind of meh to me. It wasn't bad, but I thought this song was kind of a snooze fest. The reason I bring up Steven, I Steven skipped through this one.
Yeah, "Postcards from Paradise."
Yeah,
Living by mortal hands.
yeah, I Steven skipped through this one.
Yeah, this is the Saturday Night Live skit. Take your goth kid to the Bahamas. That's basically what this song basically is. He's back in dreary old England getting postcards from paradise.
Yeah, meh.
The next song is "Deliverance" by The Mission. There are like 3 versions of this song. All of them are really long. But again, this is kind of that atmosphere type music. So there is a 10-minute version of this that I used to keep in my car when I was a senior in high school that I played every morning driving to school, and then to work after school. The Mission, known as the Mission UK in the United States, are an English Gothic rock band formed in 1986. Initially known as the Sisterhood, the band was started by frontman Wayne Hussey and bassist Craig Adams, both from the Sisters of Mercy. They soon added drummer Mick Brown, Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, and guitarist Simon Hinkler, Artery and Pulp. Aside from Hussey, the lineup has changed several times during the years, and the band has been on hiatus twice. The band's catalog consists of 10 studio albums: God's Own Medicine, Children, and Carved in Sand. Carved in Sand is the 3rd regular studio album by The Mission, released in 1990. It reached number 7 in the UK album charts, making it the second of 2 top 10 albums and overall best-selling album of the band's career. 4 singles were released from the album: Butterfly on a Wheel, Deliverance, Into the Blue, Hands Across the Ocean, and Amelia. The band have invited members of its fan club to keep select the tracks for the album. So they did Carved in Stand and Carved in Stone roughly at the same time. Carved in Stone were the long edits of some of the songs that I just talked about. Deliverance being one of them. I picked the one off Carved in Sand because it's a little shorter, just because I didn't want to put goth music can go on for a while again because it's that atmosphere music. So sometimes they want to run for 10 minutes. I didn't want to put a 10-minute song in this, but so I think I put a 6-minute song in this one. Um, I need to look and see where we are. Let's see. Six 11. I was right. Um, but yeah, this is one of those ones that it has a long lead up. It's atmospheric, and I just want to give me deliverance, deliverance. Mother, brothers, sisters, deliverance, deliverance. When I think of goth music, this is the first song I think of. This and Lucretia, My Reflection, which we've also have in the list later on. What did you think about Deliverance by The Mission, or The
This
Mission UK, as they're called over here?
this is another one more what I expected for Goth,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the video in the playlist. Do watch the YouTube video playlist. I highly recommend it for this list. We'll talk more about that as we go on. I expected Goth to be all dark and about death,
Uh-huh.
black clothes, too much eyeliner, depressing, etc. I
Yeah.
really like this song. But yes, this is another one that if you gave me a list of songs that I had to listen to and said which ones are goth, I would have said, "Yep, this one, that's goth."
Deliverance by The
Yep,
Mission UK, or The
yep.
Mission. What's weird is The Mission started out, Sisters of Mercy basically split up. Palmer Eldridge went on to do uh, another band, and the rest of the band decided to call their band the Sisterhood. Palmer Eldridge was like, "No, I'm making Sisters of Mercy again," and they went, "Okay, fine, we'll call ourselves The Mission." Unfortunately, there was already a mission over here, so they had when they're touted over here, they're called the Mission UK because they're an English band. Um, yeah, again, I listen to this song every day for probably about 2 or 3 months on my way to school and on my way to work at the theater. So this is a good one. But the version I listened to was the 10-minute one. Um, the next song, Indigo Script by the Preachers of Twilight. The Preachers of Twilight is a duo, gothic rock band from France. The pair found at a common musical meeting point in the current band, such as The Mission and the Sisters of Mercy, with earlier influences coming from the likes of King Crimson, Genesis, and Yes, says Daniel. Our music is anything but instant, but it has an identity and a character of its own. Discipline and chaos coexist side by side. Delve into the music, into the sound, and you will find it growing more every time you listen. Lyrics are very important to us, and we aim to create a trance-like state investigating the planet's natural elements and mystery. How very French. Although the band received tremendous support and live acclaim in France, they described that because of their gothic influences and roots, they would be better suited basing themselves in Great Britain. Indigo Script is a bootleg demo. So it's not one you're going to be able to find readily out in the wild. It is on our YouTube playlist. It is Tumas awesome. What did you think about Indigo Script
Um,
by
this
the
made me
Preachers of Twilight?
this made me think of David Bowie. It's a really good song, really good. And it was funny as I was going through the videos, I would occasionally look at comments on the videos, and I found one, and it wasn't for this one, but it just kind of fits in here. It was for one of them, and the quote said, "Quote, plot twist: They're all David Bowie at different stages of his life playing together,"
Yes.
and it
Yeah.
made
If you like
sense.
David Bowie, you're going to love all of this shit.
Yeah. They very much made me think of David Bowie with this song. This was a really, 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 really good song. I like this one.
Yeah. Preachers of Twilight. Yeah, I like this one. Again, more mood music than anything else. And very esoteric and French. You can tell they're French. Um, even though that the song's in English.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that because I forgot to add this one. I want this one in my playlist and I can't find it on Spotify.
You may not be able to.
Yep,
You
yep.
may have trouble with the next one as well.
No, I did not.
Hmm?
I did not have trouble finding the next one.
Oh, you found Ghost Dance?
Yeah,
Nice. Ghost Dance is a British gothic rock band formed in 1985 by Gary Marks, ex Sisters of Mercy guitarists. You're going to find a lot of crossover with Sisters of Mercy. I love Palmer Eldritch. I like the music he makes. I think he's awesome. Apparently, he's a bit of an asshole. Because there are a lot of people who do not like working with him after they've worked with him. Genius! Bit of an asshole. And Anne Mary Hurst of ex Skeletal Family, as both were leaving their respective bands. The band were originally signed to Nick Jones's record label, Carbon Records. Nick Jones of um, and then were later signed to the major label Chrysalis Records before splitting in 1989. So they only lasted 4 years. In 2019, the band reformed with Hurst being joined by new members Tim Walker, Stephen Derrick, Phil Noble, and Dave Woods. They began work on new material. Reunion shows followed in the UK, and the band signed to Voltage Records for a new album released in 2023. However, this song is Deeper Blue, which is not a new song. It is by Ghost Dance, and it is terribly atmospheric. What did you think about this one?
this is another good song. I mean, this list is shockingly good because, like I said at the very beginning, because I know you took a pause. Was I really ready to go on? I
Yeah.
expected to hate this, and I don't. There have been some songs that I was just kind of like, meh, not great, not for me. But there's been some really really good ones on this list. I was not expecting this at all. This was a good song, and this went into my playlist.
Yeah, well, I know on the next list, I know there's some of the songs that you already have in your playlist, but
That's
I wanted to
correct.
kind of explore some of the weird ones here.
The ones I had
Um,
in my playlist, I did not realize were gone.
well, again, there's a pop element to goth, and again, there's some that argue that there's some bands are like, we don't want to be called goth. The next band I'm about to talk about says they don't want to be called goth, or one of the members doesn't want to be called goth. The other ones don't give a shit. The next song is She's in Parties by Bauhaus. Bauhaus were an English rock band formed in Northampton in 1978. Known for their dark image and gloomy sound, Bauhaus are one of the pioneers of Gothic rock, although they mix many genres including dub, glam rock, psychedelia, and funk. The group consisted of Daniel Ash, guitar and saxophone, Peter Murphy, vocals, occasional instruments, Kevin Haskins on drums, and David J on bass. David J is David J. Haskins, Kevin Haskins' older brother. The band formed under the name Bauhaus 1919 in reference to the first operating year of the German art school, Bauhaus, but they shortened their name within a year of formation. Their 1979 debut single, Bela Lugosi's Dead, is considered one of the harbingers of Gothic rock music and has been influential on contemporary goth culture. During recording sessions for their next album, Murphy fell ill and spent much of his time away from the studio, leaving the rest of the band to compensate for his absence. This created a rift between the singer and his bandmates, culminating in the group's dissolution on July 5th, 1983, 1 week before Burning from the Inside was released. Featuring the top 30 UK single, She's in Parties, it would be their final studio album composed entirely of new material for a quarter of a century. So, Peter Murphy's the one that doesn't like to be called goth, but
Figured.
yeah, Daniel Ash, Daniel Ash, David J, and Kevin Haskins all formed Love and Rockets. If you like Love and Rockets, they're Bauhaus without Peter Murphy. Um, Daniel Ash also did some stuff. So did David J. Kevin Haskins just works. Kevin Haskins either works with his brother, or he works with Daniel Ash, or he works with his brother Daniel Ash and Peter Murphy. That's what he does. He's happy. He liked being in Bauhaus, and was kind of pissed when they split up. Also, there's another band called Tones on Tails, which was more electronic music, but essentially Tones on Tails is Love and Rockets with synthesizers. What did you think about She's in Parties by Bauhaus?
I like Bauhaus. But I didn't really care for this song. I didn't think there was anything special about this one. I don't know if this is a goth song or not, but I prefer Slice of Life. I think Slice of Life is a wonderful song. And if that's a goth song, I'd rather have that in this list.
Yeah, and All We Ever Wanted is basically my favorite Bauhaus song from Who Killed Mr. Moonlight. This one was uh, this one made it to the pop charts in England, and it played a lot here on the indie charts. Um, and you'll hear it in goth mixes everywhere. Because again, it's got that moody, ethereal sound with a deep bass and stuff. Again, toward the guitar side of the bridge. Um, but they did kind of venture out. Another major influence of goth, believe it or not, is Alice Cooper, especially early on. Uh, Alice Cooper, born Vincent Damon Furnier, February 4th of 1948, is an American rock singer whose career spans 60 years with a raspy voice and stage show that features numerous props and stage illusions. Cooper is considered by many journalists and peers to be the godfather of shock rock and is drawn from horror, film, vaudeville, and garage rock to pioneer a macabre and theatrical brand of rock designed to shock audiences. Particularly with Welcome to My Nightmare. It is the debut solo studio album by American rock musician Alice Cooper. Again, when Alice Cooper started, the band was called Alice Cooper, and he was just in it. But eventually, he developed the Alice Cooper persona. Um, it's a concept album. Its songs played in sequence from Journey Through the Nightmare of a Child Named Stephen. The album inspired the Alice Cooper The Nightmare TV special and worldwide concert tour in 1975. The Welcome to My Nightmare concert film in 1976. The tour was one of the most over-the-top excursions of that era. Most of the Lou Reed's band joined Cooper on this record. Welcome to My Nightmare is his only album under the Atlantic Records label in North America and internationally. It was released on the ABC subsidiary Anchor Records. Welcome to My Nightmare is the title track of his eighth studio album. The song itself mixes elements from disco, jazz, hard rock, and keeps the heavy yet funky beat. It is also considered a pioneer of the goth sound, which is why I felt like it needed to be included on this list. Is it goth? Almost, almost.
Yeah,
But
I
I
had
think
in my
it needs
notes
to
that
be thrown in there.
I had in my notes that I assumed this was goth adjacent. That
Yes,
this was one of the goth adjacent ones. Because I never
kind of
really
like
thought
Postcards from Paradise.
I never thought of Alice Cooper as goth, except for the heavy black eyeliner and whatnot, and his songs can be kind of dark sometimes. Um, but this is a great song. I
Yeah,
love, love, love how this song opens.
yeah.
I love Alice
But it's
Cooper.
got that lead up like a goth song does. It does. That's where they got the idea. It was from this. It's that because it's a big ass lead up. I mean, it's not almost 3 minutes of a lead up, but
Right.
it's a big ass lead up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great song.
The next song is Host of Seraphim by the Dead Can Dance. They are Dead Can Dance are an Australian world music and darkwave band from Melbourne, currently composed of Lisa Gerrard and Brendan Perry. The group formed in 1981. They relocated to London the following year. Australian music historian Ian McFarlane described Dead Can Dance's style as constructed soundscapes of mesmerizing grandeur and solemn beauty. African polyrhythms, Gaelic folk, Gregorian chants, Middle Eastern music, mantras, and art rock. Having temporarily disbanded in 1998, they were united in 2005 for a world tour and again in 2011. They released the tour album Anastasis, and they released their most recent album Dionysius in 2018 and toured Europe in 2022. The Serpent's Egg is their fourth studio album, and it was again on 4AD. 4AD was kind of a champion of this sound, just because Ivo Watts Russell, who owned the label, really loved it. The album was last produced by Brendan Perry and Lisa Gerrard, who were at the time a romantic couple, and a majority of the album was recorded in a multi-story apartment block in the Isle of Dogs in London. Perry discussed the album's title in a lot of aerial photographs on the Earth. If you look upon it as a giant organism, a macrocosm, you can see that the nature of the life force water travels in a serpentine way. That is what the song is about. Host of Seraphim on the Serpent's Egg. What did you think about this? Again, this is more of that atmospheric stuff I was talking about.
Which is interesting because as music, I really thought this was something that would be used in a sci-fi movie. As
I
something
think it has been.
as
You know what I
something
mean?
for a playlist, I'd pass on it. This is more background music to me than anything else. That's why
It,
I had a hard time understanding why this one was Goth.
mhm.
It's a good song, but yeah, I kind of think it's something that belongs on a soundtrack.
It's definitely atmospheric. That's one of the reasons
Yeah.
why I like some of the stuff. And honestly, I'm thinking about just putting all the atmosphere songs in a playlist so I can listen to them before I go to sleep because I think it's just cool. The next song is actually a goth slash pop song. So again, goth had been charting in the UK, and there was a pop band started by an ex member of Bananarama, Siobhan Fahey. Um, and she got with this folkish singer songwriter, and they decided to do like a pop goth record. And this song was really, really big. Um, Shakespeare's Sister, Stay is the name of the song. They were an alternative pop and rock music duo that was formed in 1988 by Siobhan Fahey. Shakespeare's Sister was initially a solo act, but became a duo by 1989 with the addition of American musician Marcella Detroit. Together, they released two top 10 albums and a string of top 40 hits, including the 1992 single Stay, which remained at number one on the UK singles charts for 8 weeks. Detroit was let go from the band in 1993, leaving Fahey as a sole member again until the later ended the project in 1996. After working under her own name for some years, Fahey revived Shakespeare's Sister moniker in 2009. In 2019, Fahey and Detroit reunited as Shakespeare's Sister for a tour and released the single "All the Queen's Horses" and "When She Finds You" on the EP "Ride Again." Shakespeare's Sister was conceived again as a solo project. Um, the the name of the band is taken from a Smith song, which in turn was a reference to a Virginia Woolf's work, "A Room with One of One's Own." According to Fahey, the misspelling began with an accidental punctuation slip on the woodcut sign, the missing apostrophe from Shakespeare's. She decided to keep it because it made it sort of my thing. So there's no apostrophe on Shakespeare's sister. It's Shakespeare's as in there's two Shakespeares and one sister. Um, Siobhan Fahey is the mother, the sister, the daughter, and it's not the artist. She was working on this and listening to a bunch of goth music when she started making Hormonally Yours, and then she ran into Detroit, and it was written by Siobhan Fahey, Marcella Detroit, and Dave Stewart under the pseudonym Jean Giotte. Dave
Eurythmics?
Stewart, yep. And he was basically the producer of it. They had another producer listed, but it was Dave Stewart. Um, but this was a big pop song. It is also like the pop goth crossover. Um, it's a very sweet and alluring song until Siobhan Fahey starts singing, and then it gets really down and dirty. And then Detroit's vocals just soar over Fahey's. Uh, I don't know how she hit those notes, and she can still hit them because I saw some live recordings of them where they just toured. She can still hit those when she's singing "Stay" and just breaking glass. Basically, she can still hit them notes in her 50s. Actually, she may be 60s by now. But yeah, what did you think about "Stay"?
This is a really interesting and beautiful song.
Isn't it?
This song is the one that really spawns my comment from earlier. Watch the videos with the song.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have known what this song was about had I not watched the video, and I wouldn't have realized how dark this song is.
Yeah, you
So let me
better hope
let
and
me let me let me
pray
let me
that
recap it.
you.
Let me recap it. So you watch the video. It's a man who's obviously dying, and the singer is standing next to him, begging him not to go.
Washing
Then it
his body, getting him prepared for death.
then it gets really trippy when Death shows up. Death
Uh huh.
shows up to take him, and she fends off Death and gets him back.
Mm-hmm.
It's a must watch with the video. This is a great song, and
Isn't it?
it's giving me goosebumps thinking about the video because especially the the portrayal of death with those wide eyes looking downward at them.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
just
All right, what's crazy is if you go back and watch Bananarama videos, the one who's always looking all wide eyed, that's
hmm
her.
is it
Yeah, the one who's like, oh, the one that always dresses up as the devil in the Venus. Yeah, that's Siobhan Fahey.
um great song. Great song,
Mm-hmm.
but it is dark. It
Yeah,
is dark.
yeah, it is.
But I really liked it, and it literally is. It is a beautiful song.
Mm-hmm. I would actually had not originally included this on it, but I had some friends of mine who were say goth chicks, but goth chicks. And I'm like, hey, I need you guys to look at this list and tell me what I'm missing. And the only thing that it came up was like, oh, this is good. I mean, you can put this or that, but you know what? This list is fine. However, you're missing "Stay" by Shakespeare's Sister. I was like, God damn it, I forgot about that song. So that is why. The Painted Lady, and I'm trying to think about their handles because they said I could go ahead and mention them. And
What a terrible human being you are. They gave you recommendations and you forget their names.
well, I don't want to give their real names. I'm trying to give their handle names. Give me just a second. Give me a second. My God,
We're waiting. Here
we're
we
waiting
are.
and we're waiting and we're waiting.
Here
And
we
I
go.
tout them all the
Everybody go to
time.
the bathroom while Zig's looking through his
Don't.
phone.
Prickly Pineapple Creations. Prickly Pineapple Creations and the Painted Lady both gave me the recommendations I need to put "Stay" in here. There you go. And Red. It was Prickly Pineapple Creations. I didn't want to say it wrong. But yeah, so I was like, okay, yeah, no, you're fucking right. I got to put "Stay" in here. I love this music. I loved it when I was young. I don't know about I didn't really necessarily get into the subculture of the dressing up and whatnot. I did a little bit, but it was more about the music and stuff with me. I did have some crazy hair at one point. Now I have no hair, so I can't, really do it. I just got paint stuff on my head. But golf clubs are fun. You see people dressed in
Black
or
or what?
electrical tape.
Black
Electrical
or
tape.
electrical tape?
Oh,
Okay.
electrical. Prickly Pineapple Creations used to dress in electrical tape.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was. Yes. It was awesome. Thank you, man.
Well, I mean, if all this is goth, I think you missed out on a couple of bands that I would recommend. She Wants Revenge and Lydia. I would have added into this list. Give them a listen. I think you will find them very distinctively goth. I could be wrong. She Wants Revenge really kind of came to forefront for me. It was used in uh, the first episode of American Horror Story Hotel. That's when I became acquainted with She Wants Revenge, and I've listened to more of that. Lydia is another one that I really like. Lydia, especially their song "Highly Suspect." I think you would enjoy those. Most of this music, though, it reminds me of all the music on Darkwave on Sirius XM radio. Sirius, if you want to
Yeah,
sponsor us.
there's a lot of dark wave. Dark wave is a I guess a sister genre of goth music. Usually, if it's dark wave, it can also be considered goth.
Yeah, I mean Sunday nights 9 p.m. to midnight Central is where Darkwave is on. I used to listen to Darkwave. You would like Darkwave if you haven't listened to it, which I'm assuming you have now
Yes.
in saying this. Um, Darkwave is on the first wave station, but that's what takes over on Sunday nights from nine to midnight Central is Darkwave, and it's everything in here I've heard so far. I was like, yeah, that would have been on Darkwave. That would have been on
Mm-hmm.
Darkwave. So like it. Good list.
Thank you, sir.
Good list. We got a part two next week.
Yes, we do.
See how I continue to like them or if I don't like any of them. So we'll get to that next week. So be sure to tune in for that. I love these two parters. But thank you for that list. I appreciate it.
Sure.
With that, I will step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For today, I got my information off Medium, Wikipedia, Shots, Crime, and Thriller e-zine, and the Crime Library. And this is the Texas teen murders.
Texas teen murders.
hmm So it was July 1993. Summer heat was suffocating as it usually does here in Texas.
Yes.
There were road workers in Ellis County, Texas, that were working outside of some woodlands, unaware that they were about to stumble upon a very gruesome crime scene. Beneath a pile of leaves and branches, they would find what would haunt them forever. And this is the true story of the Texas teen murders, which is a case that reveals that evil can hide in plain sight and terrorized a community for years while everyone remained oblivious to the monster living among them. Bum, bum, bum. So on that day of July 29th, 1993, the temperature was over 100 degrees, which in the summer in Texas is stifling.
Yes.
Um,
In Waxahachie
yes,
or Ellis County.
Ellis County, yes. As I'd said, there were workers working outside a wooded area, and they found something under the scattered leaves. They approached and saw that it was a human body, but it was something they were not expecting. It was a young girl who had been completely decapitated. Her hands had been severed, and her body had been mutilated beyond recognition, with her internal organs spilling from a massive gash across her abdomen. The brutality was actually so extreme that seasoned investigators would later struggle to process the scene. But this didn't end their nightmare. When police came and cordoned off the area, they made another discovery. Under a nearby bridge lay the body of a young boy, fully clothed, but bearing two fatal gunshot wounds to the head, um, which rose questions that quickly multiplied. The
Is it a
boy's,
convenient dumping spot or
no,
is it a serial killer?
how do I answer that? Serial, hey, hold that thought.
Okay.
Hold that thought. Um, Come back to it. Remind me at the end, and let me
Mm-hmm.
define that, and we'll talk about that for a minute. The boy did have a wallet on him. There was a library card which bore the name Brian King. He was only 14 years old. And when officers arrived at the King family home to deliver the devastating news, they learned something that made their hearts sink in even further. Brian had a 13-year-old stepsister named Christina Benjamin, and she was missing. Both children had vanished 3 days earlier on July 26. Their parents had filed a missing persons report. The family's account of that final night painted a picture that would prove it crucial to the investigation. Brian's father recalled hearing a car horn outside their home around midnight. He looked through the window and he saw his son run from the backyard hammock where he'd been relaxing and jump into a waiting vehicle. He said, quote, I saw him talking to someone in the car for about 20 seconds. Then he got in and they drove away. This was the last time anyone would see either Brian or Christina alive. The
So
forensics,
presumably Christina was already in the car. Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay.
The forensics team worked methodically. They collected all the evidence they could. Among the most significant finds were numerous blonde hairs scattered throughout the area, and some long and some that were long and confirmed that belonged to Christina. Others were shorter and unidentified. There was evidence that suggested a violent struggle. Christina had fought for her life, and in the process, both she and her attacker had lost hair in the altercation. However, it would be a single tiny brown fiber that was found on Brian's shoe that would prove to be the key to solving the case. It could have easily been overlooked. It was a microscopic piece of evidence that they preserved and sent for analysis. The results that came back determined that it likely came from a Japanese car, which corroborated the father's account of seeing Brian get into a vehicle. But at this point, they didn't know whose car it was and where was this person now.
Oh my God! A brown carpet in a Japanese car in 1993.
hmm
Jesus,
I
that's like
know,
half the cars on the road at the time.
I know.
The
Um,
interiors were either like a sandy brown or gray. That was
Right,
it. That's all
right.
you got.
So police began canvassing the neighborhood, hoping somebody had witnessed something. Most residents had seen nothing, but one neighbor did provide a crucial piece of information. He had spoken with Brian and Christina earlier in the day, and they mentioned they were planning to go out that night with someone named Jason. Um, at the time, that's all they had, so it meant nothing to investigators. But 2 days later, an anonymous phone call came in that said, "quote You should look into a guy named Jason Massey," but they refused to identify themselves. Police had been searching for a Jason, and now someone was specifically naming Jason Massey as a person of interest. But who was Jason Massey? Jason Eric Massey was 21 years old, born on January 7th, 1973, in Ellis County. His childhood read like a textbook case of warning signs ignored. He was raised by a single mother who struggled with poverty and substance abuse, and Jason's early years were marked with constant upheaval. They moved frequently, often evicted for unpaid rent. Sometimes they were homeless, sometimes they stayed in shelters. Jason's mother's boyfriends were abusive. They often took out their frustrations on both the mother and the son. Yes, you can beat somebody into being a killer.
Yes, you can. It happens a lot.
I saw conflicting articles. I saw articles that said she never directly harmed Jason. I saw others that said she also beat Jason. So I don't know which one was right. Um, all I can tell you is what I can tell you is she 100% neglected him. She would often
Mhm.
leave him alone in the car while she drank in bars for hours at a time.
Hmm.
The year before he started school, Jason was sexually assaulted by a male babysitter. He did strike out at the man, which is wild, the year before starting school, but he had been taught by example that using violence gets you what you want. His own behavior really should have raised the biggest alarms. At age 9, he began sadistically hurting other children, not typical playground fights, but calculated acts of cruelty. He would pin kids down and whip them with tree branches, deriving pleasure from their pain. Around age 10, he killed his first animal. He strangled a cat, then decapitated it. Here's another one. He wasn't an this wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern that would continue for years. When he was 13, a teacher noticed him reading a Charles Manson book in class, and she was concerned, so she approached him about the inappropriate material. And his response to her was, "Ted Bundy is my hero." Yeah, we got warning signs all over the place on this kid.
Oh my God! It's like they opened up the textbook and went, "Okay, this is how you make serial killer. We're gonna do that for this kid." So
Yeah,
okay, here, let's give
yeah,
Ted Bundy to hear her eyes.
yeah.
Oh my God!
The teacher did try to contact Jason's mother to report the incident, but the family had moved again, this time because Jason had been caught stalking a local woman. At 18, Jason's mother found something which should have changed everything, but didn't. She was cleaning his room and she found 3 years worth of journals filled with a kill list, names of girls he wanted to murder. He wrote about his desire to become a serial killer, calling it his sacred journey, and he wanted to engrave his name in society through acts of violence. Um, she did at least take some alarm, and she sought psychiatric help. The first doctor who evaluated Jason declared him as a threat to society and
Oh my God!
recommended immediate hospitalization. A second psychiatrist, however, disagreed completely, and Jason was released after just 1 week.
Hmm.
So we had that anonymous caller that called the police about Jason. They revealed disturbing details about his reputation. Everyone knew him as an animal killer. He would steal pets from neighbors and murder them in the most brutal ways possible, beheading them or mutilating their bodies. He kept a collection of rotting animal heads in a box in his home. He had jokes about murder. He frequently talked about killing young girls, laughing as he described violent fantasies. And people found it creepy, but never reported it, and they dismissed it as just, quote, Jason being Jason. The anonymous caller did provide names of Jason's friends. Police interviewed them and they corroborated every detail. They also revealed something that made Jason an immediate suspect in the days before the murders. He had specifically mentioned Brian and Christina, saying he wanted to get Christina alone.
Hmm.
So, within hours of these interviews, police had enough evidence to arrest Jason on suspicion of murder. He was brought to the station and immediately shown crime scene photos to gauge his reaction. But upon seeing the image of Christina's mutilated body, Jason began gagging and pushing the photos away. He said, quote, "This is awful, that poor girl." Investigators, however, weren't convinced. They believed Jason was acting, putting on a performance, and they knew that getting a confession would be difficult, so they focused on building a case through physical evidence. That tiny fiber from Brian's shoe became crucial because they discovered that Jason Massey drove a Subaru, a Japanese car that could be the source of the fiber, so they obtained a search warrant. First thing they did was rip out the carpet from the car and sent it to the lab for comparison. But in the trunk, there was a hammer, duct tape, and a Walmart receipt for handcuffs, a hunting knife, and bullets. It was a murder kit. There was a single receipt for these items. Why did this not raise an alarm? This is not normal to go to Walmart and buy handcuffs, a hunting knife, and bullets. Something is up there. Well,
You got
police.
the proof. You okay? If the warrant didn't say receipt, items in trunk, maybe that's why they couldn't use it. But still, you
No, no,
gotta
no,
think.
no, no, no. They used it. No, no, no. They. I think you've misunderstood. They did use this evidence. What I'm saying is, why did this Walmart employee not report this?
Oh, the Walmart employee.
Yes. I mean, police tracked down the employee who sold the items, and she said she remembered him clearly. She said he was the first person she had ever sold handcuffs to, and the combination of items struck her as odd. She told investigators, quote, "Handcuff, a hunting knife, and bullets. It seemed like a very suspicious combination. So why didn't you tell someone?"
At least goes, hey man, this guy just bought like bullets, a hunting knife, and handcuffs. I think he's gonna go murder somebody.
Yes. Anyway. Police got another anonymous tip that led police to a car wash where Jason had been seen the day after the murders, getting his vehicle thoroughly cleaned inside and out. Incredibly, though, the car wash hadn't disposed of the vacuum contents yet. Police took
Mm-hmm.
everything from the vacuum to the lab for analysis, and this paid off. Christina's hair was found throughout the vacuum contents, proving she had been in Jason's car the night she was murdered. Lab results confirmed that the short blonde hairs found at the crime scene belonged to Jason Massey, and the fiber from Brian's shoe indeed was a match to the car. So the physical evidence was overwhelming. Jason was charged with the murder of Brian King and Christina Benjamin. Since he maintained his innocence, prosecutors had to piece together what likely happened. What they said was that Jason had planned the meeting in advance. He and Christina had met previously through a mutual friend, and despite their 8-year difference, they had arranged to meet again. The plan was for Christina to sneak out of the house, meet Jason, spend the evening together. But Christina ended up inviting her stepbrother Brian along, possibly for safety, or maybe she was just 13 and wanted company.
Mm-hmm.
Jason picked up Christina first, then drove to the King house where Brian jumped in the car. They drove to a secluded area. Without warning, Jason pulled out a gun and shot Brian twice in the head at close range. Christina tried to escape. She jumped from the car and ran, but Jason pursued her. When he couldn't catch up, he shot her twice in the back. Both children were dead within minutes, but Jason wasn't finished. He retrieved his newly purchased hunting knife and began the systematic mutilation of Christina's body. He decapitated her, severed her hands, removed her nipples, and slashed open her abdomen so her organs would spill out, and he also severely mutilated her genital area. Um, this wasn't a crime of passion. This was a methodical act of sadistic pleasure. During the search of his home, investigators found the box his friend had mentioned, which had 31 animal skulls, the remains of cats, dogs, and other creatures he had killed over the years. The journal that they found were equally disturbing. There was one that was titled The Slayer Book of Death, where Jason kept a running tally of his animal victims: 9 cats, 30 dogs, and 8 cows. In another, he wrote about his ambition to
Eight
become
cows?
8 cows. In another journal, he wrote about
Okay,
his.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Cows as livestock are expensive, and therefore was nobody investigating mutilations of cows? I mean, I get
Again,
they don't do it pets. They
again,
don't.
I said it right at the very beginning of this story. This was an evil person who lived among them and was terrorizing this community. I'm sure people were reporting their missing pets. I'm sure they were.
Again, I get that they're not going after pets. The police aren't going to do that. But livestock, yeah, that's a horse of a different color. You know what I mean?
I know. I don't
It-
agree. But like I said, it was something that was happening in the community that overall kind of being ignored.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
obviously.
in another journal, he wrote about his ambition to become, quote, the most famous serial killer in America, and he had a target of 700 victims.
And these were his first two humans.
Okay, so that's where I said I wanted to come back to this. He's being charged with two.
Uh huh.
I I don't know if if these were the first two, the only two, or the last two. I don't know. I think what we were, and the reason I held off saying serial killer because from everything I have, we only have two, Brian and Christina.
Uh
The
huh.
definition of a serial killer is three or more,
Uh huh.
so he doesn't fit, except for the fact he wanted to become a serial killer.
Yeah, yeah. They
I think the
stopped him in the
only I
process.
think the only reason he is not a serial killer by true definition is because they stopped him.
Is because he's a moron and he got caught.
Yeah, this was going to be a serial killer. So,
Yeah.
so, so that's the only reason I said let's pause that for a minute.
Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah. This is a serial killer in the making.
100%. So the trial itself brought forward several witnesses who painted a picture of Jason, his escalating violence and obsession with young girls. Christopher, the friend who had introduced Jason or Christina, testified about that first meeting. He described how Jason was immediately fixated on the 13-year-old girl, flirting with her all evening despite their significant age difference. And according to Christopher, Jason talked obsessively about wanting to kill Christina and chop her up. When asked why he hadn't reported this to the police, Christopher's answer was, quote, Jason said that kind of stuff a lot. Again, they just kind of ignored it. Another witness, Anita, testified about Jason's behavior in school. She described years of harassment, threatening phone calls, and violent fantasies. Jason had repeatedly told her about dreams of murdering her. The harassment escalated when Anita rejected Jason's request for a date. The next morning, she found her family dog murdered in their driveway, and its blood was smeared across her car. Jason had killed her pet in retaliation for her rejection. The evidence against Jason was overwhelming. He was found guilty of both murders and sentenced to death. His execution was scheduled for April 3rd,
This could have
2001.
been prevented
Yes. Yeah.
with a terroristic threat. 1993, those laws were already on the books.
Right.
Yeah,
They,
murdering the dog and smearing it in blood, that's a terroristic threat. He could have got at least 3 or 4 years.
right. Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, before his death, he made an unusual request. He wanted to speak to the parents of his victims. Um, they were initially reluctant to do so, but Brian and Christina's parents eventually agreed to meet him. It was during this meeting that Jason finally confessed to both murders. For the first time, he admitted what he had done to them. He attempted to offer some comfort to the parents, telling them that Christina hadn't suffered during the mutilation because she was already dead from the gunshot wounds. He also claimed to have seen three angels rise from Christina's body when she died. Before the meeting ended, Jason told the parents where they might find Christina's missing head and hands in the Trinity River. That was searched for divers, but her remains have never been found.
Yeah, that was years later.
Yes. On April 3rd, 2001, Jason Massey was executed by lethal injection. His final meal was three fried chickens, three portions of corn on the cob, fried squash, fried eggplant, mashed potatoes, various vegetables, and a pint of caramel pecan fudge ice cream, all washed down with a pitcher of sweet tea. And his last words before the execution were, quote, "Tonight I dance on the streets of gold. Let those without sin cast the first stone." Um, th this case this case raises some very disturbing questions about warning signs and how they can be ignored and how a truly evil person can hide in plain sight. His childhood was filled with red flags, animal cruelty, violent fantasies, threats against classmates, journals filled with murder plans, teachers,
He was
friends,
he
family.
was built to be a serial killer. Our
Yes.
society turned an innocent child into a serial killer.
Well, teachers, friends, and families all witnessed concerning behavior. Nothing was ever done to stop it.
Nobody said shit.
The psychiatric evaluation system failed catastrophically. Two doctors reached completely opposite conclusions about his mental state and allowed him to remain free. The most troubling part of this, his reputation for violence was well known in the community, yet no one reported to authorities until after two children were dead.
Yeah, why not say
Um,
something before?
Friends dismissed his murder fantasies as jokes, neighbors ignored his animal cruelty, and classmates never spoke up about his threats. Um, Christina Benjamin was only 13 years old when she was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
She should have been worried about school friends, teenage concerns, not becoming the victim of a sadistic killer who had been fantasizing about her death. Brian King, 14 years old, he died simply because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. His only crime was being there for his stepsister and being a witness to the crime.
Yep.
Um, these murders, it forced Ellis County to confront some very uncomfortable truths about how they failed to protect their residents.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help that Ellis, Waxahachie, and most of the rest of Ellis County are also sundown towns. They're
Right.
they're more about being racist than solving crimes. That's their whole thing, or was. I don't think
Thank
it's
you.
that way now. Yeah, but it
Some of
was
them,
that way in the.
some of them still are. Some of them
Yeah,
still are.
yeah. I can guarantee you, in 1993, they they were more about keeping the bad element out than actually looking into crimes. And
Well,
it's on them.
the execution brought legal closure to this case, but it doesn't restore their lives, the lives of the two children. It
No,
doesn't heal the trauma that was inflicted
no.
on the families. It what this story does, it does serve a very powerful reminder that we all have the responsibility to speak up when we witness warning signs of violence.
Say it with us, kids. If you
If you
see
see
something,
something, say
say
something.
something.
Whether it's animal cruelty, violent fantasies, threats against others, these type of behaviors cannot be dismissed as harmless. Um, no matter how young the perpetrator may seem or how harmless their actions may seem, you've
Mm-hmm,
got to say something. In this
mm-hmm.
particular case, two children paid the ultimate price for a community's failure to act. And I'm sure that haunts a lot of people to this day.
Three, three children,
Well,
three children. Well, he was 21, but
yeah,
yeah,
I was going to say not three children because that was a young
yeah.
adult.
But yeah, that all three of those kids
Three
could have been
people's lives.
saved
Yeah, yeah.
at any
Um,
point in this line.
right, right. I mean, 93 is a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the lessons we take from this, they're as relevant as ever. We're in a world where violence can hide behind a familiar faith. Vigilance isn't just important; it's essential for protecting the innocent people. This is more than a true crime story. This is a call to action. You got to remember that when good people choose to remain silent, lives are impacted,
That's right.
sometimes tragically impacted.
The true
Um,
evil is when good men refuse do nothing
yes,
in the face of
yes.
evil.
So if you take anything from this story, that's it. When you see something, say something. Don't let these go without calling somebody. Get these people to help, and maybe we can stop this kind of thing from happening again. So,
Yeah.
ah, that's the story of the Texas Dean murders.
Well, thank you, sir.
You bet. Thanks for taking that journey with me. I'm sorry I kind of got on a soapbox at the end. Uh,
Yeah, it's okay. I
for
think we kind of both agree on this. It's like, hey, just fucking
for
say something.
forewarning and preview, next week I will be getting on yet another soapbox. So there you go. It's coming up. I've got one coming. There are people that are going to love me for my soapbox. There are people that are going to hate me for my soapbox, but I have to say it anyway. So there we go. That'll come next week. Stay tuned. But that will take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find us on nerdyermurder.com. That's our hub. That's for everything about us. You can find links to this episode, pictures of this episode, and you can find the link to our YouTube page, which is so often update.
Yes, please go and check this out if you haven't checked it out already. The music is great and atmospheric and groovy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And stand by for part two for next week.
Yeah, go ahead and listen to part 2 now. That way you know what we're talking about.
Um, You'll also find the link to our merchandise page, or if you wish to show off your nerdery murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something from there. That, along with our patrons, you'll find our Patreon link on our site. Our patrons and our purchasers of merchandise do help with the costs that are associated with this show. There are costs to keep us on the air, do our uploads, do our stores, do our website, and everything like that. And we do appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Please don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It is completely free and something you can do that helps us and helps others find our topics, our content. They're interested in the topics that we discuss. And last but certainly not least, Chuck, you can go to sleep now.
Good night, Chuck.
With that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with the Murdering.
Cue the music.